Thank you so much, Dr. Locke. What an incredible presentation. Very insightful, and I hope everyone has learned a lot from her words and, of course, her work. So tonight, you have all seen the data, the numbers, the research, the trends, but behind every data point, there's a person, and I'm one of them. My name is Kayleigh Robertson. I'm a graduate from York University with honors in psychology, specializing in counseling and mental health. I'm a certified clinical peer support specialist and a professional speaker. And I'm also a mental health and social media survivor. Now, with everything I've been through in my life with social media use, I share my story to help others through theirs. And I'm going to tell you what it was like to live this data. Now, in 2013, when I was 13, I got my first smartphone. And it didn't start as something dangerous. It started the same way it does for most kids, with curiosity, connection, and that little spark of belonging when you text your friends. Now, when I first got social media, it felt like stepping into a world where I could be funny, confident, pretty, everything I didn't always feel in real life. Now, what I didn't understand yet was that I wasn't supposed to feel that way yet. Being 13 and 14 is about becoming, not performing. It's not about being the next influencer. And what I didn't understand was how this content was going to end up hitting my self-esteem, changing my opinions of myself, and my opinions of the world around me. Slowly, those small moments of connection, the likes, the comments, the attention, started to shape how I saw myself. Every like meant I mattered. Every silence meant that I didn't. What began as scrolling for fun quietly turned into scrolling for validation and feeling like I had no choice but to scroll because the system was designed that way. And somewhere in that loop, in what I was seeing and exposed to online, and viewing body standards for girls, pornography, what men actually think of me, I started losing myself. And within just a few short weeks of this, I had my first suicide attempt at age 14. And no one could figure out why. I grew up fine. I didn't have a bad childhood. I had parents and a community who loved me. No one around me knew what was happening because my life didn't look like danger. I was just a girl, and I had a phone. I was mindlessly building in my personality what I now call in my published research, my fourth personality layer. A digital version of me that wasn't real, but felt more real than the real thing. She was curated, filtered, perfectly posed. She was who I thought I needed to belong. And the more time I spent keeping her alive, the more I disappeared. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating right. I was constantly online, constantly comparing, constantly performing. The world inside my phone became louder than the one outside of it until I could not tell which was real anymore. In 2016, I was hospitalized 6 times for 6 repeated suicide attempts. It's hard to explain what psychosis from social media feels like. It's not just being online too much. It's the gradual breakdown of reality itself. I began hearing things that weren't there, seeing signs and meanings in posts that did not exist. I believed people were talking to me through my screen. I thought it was meant for something, that my digital self had a purpose that was bigger than me. This did not happen overnight. It was a gradual scroll through a mirror in my most vulnerable teenage years that slowly started reflecting back someone that I no longer recognized. And that's how the line between reality and illusion vanished. There's a point where social media stops being a tool, a Snapchat group to talk to friends, an Instagram DM from a new friend that you've met at school, and starts becoming a world of its own, one that rewires how you think, how you see, and who you are. And when I was finally hospitalized for the last time, I was 17. I remember sitting in a hospital bed, staring at my hands, wondering how I had gone from scrolling to sitting in between 4 white walls. I wasn't sure who I was anymore. The girl, the screen, or the silence between them. Now, somehow, I did come back. I'm standing before you today because I came back. But coming back from something like that isn't that simple. You don't walk out of a mental health unit cured. And I walked out without any real intervention on social media psychosis, with a brain that had been trained to respond to dopamine hits, to live on performance and to measure my worth in views and validation, and to not know who I was without the constant feedback of a screen telling me if I mattered. I was still rewired. I still compared myself to people that I envied. I still thought in captions. I still rehearsed versions of myself that would be easier to like. It wasn't just the mental illness that I was recovering from. It was the psychological debt of having built an entire identity on something completely artificial. Now, that debt didn't only cost me time. It cost me my education, my relationships, my sense of safety. I lost friends who didn't know how to be around me or relate to what I had been through. I lost years of what should have been normal teenage memories. I didn't go to prom. I didn't have a high school graduation. And it cost me real money, thousands of dollars between ages 19 to 21, trying to keep up to trends absorbed in online lifestyle. I began to embody the negative people online, the rude influencers, the trends rooted in being a certain way and judging others who were not. And I was over-posting all of it, compensating for my loss. I had no real personality, and I had no real mindset anymore. As Instagram grew and TikTok came to the world, I shrunk, and reality was non-existent. I almost got plastic surgery. I was using my rent money to buy clothes, hair products, press on clickbait ads, and I could not hold down employment. I had no real ambition about life or my future. I was faced with utter loss of my teenagehood and my young adult life. My young adult life had completely morphed into a digital lifestyle. My fourth person thrived, but my life was in ruins. And when ultimately I was faced with eviction, I had no choice but to change, just like I had no choice as a teen caught in forces that I couldn't see. My habits, my online persona, and my approval were not mine alone. They were molded by a system I never agreed to. And now I had to face what that system left behind and rebuild from it. With the support of my parents, the hardest part came, letting go of it all. I realized that to truly heal, I couldn't just step away from social media. I mean, this wasn't a digital balance or a detox conversation. I had to delete it. Every account, every post, and every version of myself that I had built inside of that online world. And it wasn't some empowering movie moment. It was pure and utter grief. It felt like I was deleting a person. Because in a way I was. I was deleting what I had been trained all along to think matters, and the online version of myself that upheld all of it. That online version of me had been my escape, my comfort, my proof of existence. And when I hit delete, I felt the emptiness of everything she took with her. Everything I'd been trained to believe, to act like, every Instagram account and what they stand for, every highlight reel and every photo. But underneath that emptiness, there was space, real space. Silence that was no longer punishment, but possibility, accountability, opportunity. Without my phone now dictating who I could be, I started asking questions I hadn't asked in years. What do I actually like? What do I believe? Who am I when no one is watching? And the answers did not come right away. They came slowly, through boredom, through complete loneliness, and through learning how to live without now being observed. Instead of asking what I wanted to be, I began asking why I wanted to be it in the first place, and began to realize the way my brain had been trained, it dictated all those answers all along. But those moments, the ones that really used to scare me, became where I finally met myself again. Now, social media deletion was not an act of rebellion or refusal. It was an act of reclamation. And that's when recovery finally became real. Not because I escaped the world that hurt me, but because I finally returned to the one that could heal me. I no longer wanted to be a millionaire, or better yet, perceived as one, with the clothes, the hair, the face, the lifestyle. I no longer wanted to be an influencer. I wanted to be me. And I wanted to be nice. And I wanted to tell my story. Once I finally stepped outside of that online world, and I was able cognitively to return to university in 2022, and once I started to research all of this, I started to see it a lot differently. I started to see everyone else around me still inside of it. I looked around and I realized that the friends I made once I did go back to school, the ones who never ended up in hospitals, they were still kind of living inside of that same sickness. They didn't look sick. They looked normal. They went to school, got jobs. They posted pictures, but they built lives. But beneath it, I could see the same symptoms I had, just in quieter forms, while social media trends kept getting worse. I saw the girl who can't go 5 minutes without checking if someone texted her back. The guy who deletes every photo that doesn't get enough likes. The people who can't feel joy unless it's visible and can't feel pain unless it's validated. The young women who are still getting plastic surgery. And the young men who have become full of hate, especially towards women. Most importantly, the young people who are still believing they will be billionaires one day. Now, no one would really call this psychosis per se, but it's still kind of a disconnect from reality, isn't it? It's living inside a performance, inside a constant loop of comparison, measurement, inside programming, and inside of extreme messaging and manipulation. And the scariest part is that among my generation, it's normalized. This generation confuses attention with love, algorithms with belonging, and stimulation with connection. With the extremes we see as normal, or worse, the quickest way to fame. Some of my friends didn't lose themselves all at once like I did, but they're slowly draining, scrolling their lives away, one dopamine hit at a time. Now that's why I talk about the spectrum of social media psychosis. Because for every kid who ends up in a hospital like I did, there are thousands more living just 1 or 2 degrees away. They're not sick enough to be seen, but they are not well enough to be free. That's what hurts the most. I can see the same trap that I fell into playing out in real time now. Now, my parents, they didn't know what was happening to me. When I was sick, when I was a teenager, believe you me, my parents were terrified. And they did everything they knew how to do. They got me therapy, they tried to take away my phone, they brought me to doctors, but none of it made sense to them. Because no one was talking about this. No one was saying that a screen could break a mind. And they didn't know that I wasn't just addicted to the device, I was addicted to the version of myself that lived inside of it. If my parents had known what was happening, maybe things would have been different. I'm sure things would have been different. But I can't go back. What I can do is stand here and say, you all can change what comes next. Every time you set a boundary, every time you delay a phone, every time you help a young person feel seen without being online, you're saving a life that doesn't even know it needs saving yet. I'm living proof that even when the worst happens, healing is possible. I believe that I survived the digital flame so others don't have to burn. And that comes directly from the fact that what my dad calls me is a phoenix. For the longest time, I didn't really understand why fully. He'd say it quietly on hospital visits, during my recovery, whenever I doubted I'd make it through. And even today, right before I got on this stage, you're my phoenix. And I used to think maybe he means it because I survived. But now I know he meant it because I transformed. A phoenix doesn't just come back, it rises. It's born from fire, but it learns how not to fear the flames. But that's what healing from this data has felt like. I've learned how to live without the constant noise of the feed. I don't have social media, and I never will again. I've learned that peace is not the absence of attention, it's the presence of self. It's real communication. It's connection. And I've learned that our greatest connection comes not from the screen, but from the simple act of seeing and being seen in real life. Every time I share my story, just like I am tonight, I'm reminded that the data we talk about isn't just numbers, it's people. It's me. It's all of your kids. And it's a generation that's now trying to find its way back to reality. So if you remember one thing from tonight, let it be this. The world is not asking you to be perfect parents. And from what we've talked about tonight, we all know how hard parenting in this age is. But what the world needs is more truth. It needs patience. It needs guidance, and it needs allies. We need allies for kids, parents like you who are willing to wait, so the next generation can grow up grounded in the real world and not delayed by a digital one.